Hello and welcome to episode number 89 of the Nintendo Jump Podcast. We're a weekly discussion podcast created for Nintendo gamers by Nintendo gamers. It's March 12th. My name is Daryl, and today I am once again joined by our good friend Sergio, who somehow bailed himself out of jail. How are you, man?
Hey man, you know what? Yeah, I mean it worked. Shy Guy took my place. TJ, as we call him in here in the show. So yeah, he took my place. He's back in there. But I just gotta say, I only did what any irrational KK Slider fan would have done. I would do it again. I will as soon as the restraining order is lifted.
Here we go.
Don't do it again, sir. Okay.
No.
Also this week, hey Kevin, how are you, man?
Oh, doing all right. Just doing all right. Just hanging in there and grinding away with life, the daily grind, anything daily. And I have my honey citron lemon tea with ginger. It's very good. It's from Costco. I'm not being endorsed by Costco, but if I were, you know what to do. Yeah, it's delicious. It's hot. It's warm. It's between both. And how are you, Daryl?
You gotta stop asking for sponsorships, man. It ain't gonna happen.
No, it's gonna happen one day.
No, it's not.
All right.
I'm all right. It's a weird time. So I think let's just kind of start talking. So this is gonna be kind of a low key episode for a little bit because we got some news. And we got some news that we really need to talk about. So E3 is canceled this year. And we were talking about it last week as a potential source of information. And yeah, no. So due to fears of the, COVID-19 coronavirus that is going around right now, a lot of stuff is getting canceled. So the NBA season has been postponed. Major League Baseball, NHL, MLS, I could go on. A lot of live events in various forms are getting banned by cities, and South by Southwest got canceled, and finally E3. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird, scary time, and we can actually talk about it. How, real quick, how are you guys dealing with this?
So for me, it's like it's been tough, just in general because with work, they've been asking us to get ready to work from home at any moment's notice. So we're encouraged to always carry our laptops and test devices and other things that we need. And other tech companies around us have been already implementing that mandatory work from home policy. So it's been pretty serious here. For me, I'm just trying to. It's tough because you still want to get through your day, but at the same time, it's like you still are aware of what's going on and just keeping up with the updates, the news, and all that. So yeah, right now, the company has been very active with sending emails about the virus and just making sure that we're good and all that. So yeah, it's a situation for me. How about you, Serge?
It hasn't really reached our work space just yet. We're a small office, so we're still going there. We are taking precautions. We are being more in tune with hygiene and disinfecting our environment. So other than that, though, it just hits you home when you start seeing all these things getting canceled, and not just the recent ones, but like a couple of weeks or maybe like a month ago, and you started seeing things mostly in China or Japan, just things getting canceled, postponed, even little things like a certain game coming out and having like a release party or like a launch event, and then you hear that it's getting canceled. And back then
Right.
I was thinking, well, maybe it's just gonna be a few of those. It's hopefully not gonna get out of control, but unfortunately, it has gotten worse. It is very serious, but it's affecting a lot of people, and that's what bothers me. When it affects people in general with the little things, because sometimes the little things are what keeps us going every day. So getting affected in that way, kind of sucks. But on the other hand, no one is really to blame. So we're just dealing with it the best we can, and hopefully all together.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's a very, very highly communicable illness. I mean, it transfers. You can be contagious without even knowing you have it.
Right.
It manifests itself in very like not not all that serious symptoms in most people, but then kind of the older population are very very at risk with it. So it's an interesting kind of scary thing, and I think in the past maybe we haven't taken a lot of these precautions as much as we are now. I certainly can't remember a time where this many things got canceled or postponed due to some sort of illness. As somebody who actually like has my eyebrows raised anytime something is this highly contagious. It's nice to see. It does suck. I can't sit here and say that I'm happy E3 was canceled or South by Southwest or NHL or anything. Like I can't say that that's a great thing, but I totally get it,
Hmm.
and it's gonna lead to some interesting things. I think we are not at all. We are not the experts in this disease, and I'll say
Right.
it acts similar to how a flu does. But definitely, I do want to kind of urge anybody listening to us, just keep an eye on the news. Check out the CDC's recommendations. Basically, wash your hands and stay away from people, and don't take unnecessary risks and go places that you shouldn't be going. Things like that. This is a big deal, at least to part of our population. So take precaution, please.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully, the workplaces are actually like taking the precautions that they should. I know a lot of them are, which is nice to see as well. My work is starting kind of we did a full travel stop a little while back. Actually, I was scheduled for some travel that was going to keep me out of PAX East, and that's what I was talking about. But that got canceled. So yeah, it's an interesting time. But yeah, I just want to reiterate. Do take precautions. And keep yourself safe and healthy. Not even just for this, just in general.
Yes. Hmm.
practice
Yeah.
practice hygiene. Be nice to people, but don't be too nice to people. Keep some space between you when you talk. That kind of thing. All right. With all that said, let's actually talk about what this has done. So, E3 is canceled this year. So, geez, there was a lot that was going to happen at E3 this year. There were a bunch of
Mm.
companies coming. I believe Microsoft was already signed up, and this is a new hardware generation type year.
Yes.
This is going to be kind of a culture changing thing, in my opinion. What are you guys thinking about that? Like, what ramifications are you seeing from no E3 this year?
I think the biggest thing is the smaller companies, the indie devs, because for the bigger companies, the AAA, the ones that make the AAA games, they can survive without having E3 because they have the name, they have the prestige and the marketing and all that. But for the smaller companies, the indie devs that rely on these kind of events, like I think it's a huge hit for their for just networking, having more exposure. It'll be interesting to see how they go about the situation as it unfolds. And it's tough because like I'm sure they had a plan like all mapped out for E3 and for other events coming down the pipeline this year, but
Right.
because of the COVID-19 coronavirus, like all that has just been shafted. So I'm I'm hoping to see that they will figure it out and make their presence online in a bigger way. So and for a lot of us, that's how we get our information anyway, right? Like we see things on Twitter, um, different media outlets, and all of that. So I think a, this is the opportunity for them to just find that way into online and try to focus more on that rather than being at well, events that they cannot go to for the time being. So it's tough, and those are I think I feel for them. It's tough, and you know it, any sort of exposure counts, and this is going to be very critical. So
Right. And I feel like you kind of touched on it that E3 is probably going to transition into something more of a digital experience,
right,
very, very well embraced, and like very digital. And I can see it working for sure. Like you said, the indies are probably going to be the most affected, but ideally, it would be very nice if the bigger companies, the big guns, the big three, and EA, Ubisoft, etc., if they can sort of understand that the indies are also there and they need help, so maybe they can do a few collaborations with them and featuring
Mm.
indie games in their presentations, or just working with them in general. I don't know, letting some quote unquote bigger characters be part of indie games. That every little bit helps. And if the indies can also be getting like demos or getting live events that people can participate while being online from anywhere in the world, I feel like that E3 is gonna go into something like that for the most part. I mean, even the demos can be played online, so I feel like that's a nice compromise. It's interesting that it has to change because of recent events. I don't know if it's gonna come back next year, but I feel like if they really go all out with the online this year, and they can probably even improve it next year, it's probably gonna stay that way.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, so demos are kind of an interesting topic here because a lot of companies are kind of hesitant to release full demos because hackers exist and can data mine the entire game and things like that if the demo is not like extremely well filtered.
Right.
So I don't know, like just in terms of Nintendo. So Nintendo has been on this model where they do a digital presentation every year anyway. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of expect them to go ahead and move forward and be part of the E3 happenings, but with a Nintendo Direct instead. Uh, I really hope that they figure out a way to kind of replicate the Nintendo Treehouse segments, because those are like my favorite part of the show every year.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like 3 days of just people like sitting around playing games, showing you the demos with the developers and such. I have to imagine that that's going to be extremely different, if it even is included, which I don't know how hopeful I am. Um, but maybe. I'm hoping Nintendo's presence doesn't change all that much, with the difference of they're just not going to be on a show floor for people to play, right? Uh, but for the other companies, so the interesting thing here is E3 is the ESA is trying to transition this year's E3 into more of an online digital event, and get the companies to still kind of participate in the digital space.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if that actually sticks, and if all of a sudden you have like a Microsoft Direct. And Devolver has already said that they're working on their own, and a few others. Like, would we see an Ubisoft Direct and a Microsoft Direct and a SquareSoft Direct? Square Enix. That'd be kind of cool if it does happen in that way. But the other interesting note there is, if they actually do it and go through with it, do they kind of come to the realization, hey, this is a really nice format? You mean I don't have to pay thousands of dollars for a stage show? People watch this stuff.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, E3's been kind of, I'll say, kind of, walking towards the grave for years now, according to a lot of people. I still enjoy the show, but it's been less and less successful, less and less involvement from all the companies and such. I asked the question on Twitter, and I'm still kind of curious. I'm wondering if this is the last E3, like if that just did it, or if the show like drastically changes next year.
I don't think there's. I think E3 is still going to continue, but it's just in a different format. Like both of y'all have mentioned, like maybe transition more into a digital space. And this might have been the critical point where that takes form. I mean,
Hmm.
canceling E3 this year has been just that. Oh my goodness! Like, holy shoot, what's going on? And it's yeah. I think well, and I want to touch upon one thing with the Nintendo stuff. Like, I do agree that the Treehouse presentations are amazing. Like, I can imagine they'll still keep doing that, but maybe in a more reclusive setting with like, well, obviously less than uh 250 people. Given that well, if you've heard the news that we're not we can't, any event with 250 people or more are canceled. So I think that's doable. However, the one thing that I will miss, well, especially for this year, are the tournaments that go on. Really hype, especially with Splatoon 2. I'm talking
Mm.
about Super Mario Maker 2. That one time they did that, and they're showing the co-op, and it was like amazing to watch, and just seeing the creativity and the competitive spirits that the people there had. That's definitely going to be missed this year. And you know, if they have E3 next year, if it's hopefully when things get better, hopefully they'll still have some sort of tournament to that capacity. And because that creates hype and that creates excitement for Nintendo fans to get more excited for the games coming down the pipeline. And you know, uh, I honestly feel like out of all the platforms, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they're probably the most prepared, equipped with like doing digital. Because then, I mean, like Daryl said, they've always done directs. I mean, it's one after another. So, whereas for Microsoft and Sony, they relied more on being at the event, and at the premiere and the press conference and all that. And Sony had their own PSX, which canceled way before this whole thing with the virus occurred. So what are they gonna do? I hope they have some sort of direct too. I mean, the PS5 is coming soon, so what is going on with that? Like I hope they have like a plan in motion because this if they want to be relevant relevant in the conversation for and I'm serious, like they've been MIA for a bit, and like yeah, they talk about PS5 and what it could do, well, yada yada yada, but it's they've definitely been low on the radar, flying under the radar, and I like to see some excitement from them in the digital space for this year. So what do you think, Serge?
Yeah, I think so. I think online is going to be a really big part of E3 going forward. The only concern I have is that I hope everyone kind of collaborates, at least with the timing. Hopefully, everyone has an online presentation or a direct, and hopefully they kind of agree on, okay, I'll take Monday morning, you take Monday afternoon, etc., so that it's all within a week. I don't want everyone to have a different presentation. I don't know, like throughout the year, and then yeah, but basically, they're not collaborating anymore. I kind of want to see everyone together, at least for a week. It feels like a really special week for gamers, even if we don't play everything we see, but we know that it's all going on at the same time.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing I'm probably gonna miss is like Nintendo always has a really cool booth, and that they'll
Yeah.
walk you through
Yeah.
and such. I have to like assume that this year's big game was gonna be, something like a Breath of the Wild 2 or something really big, right? And that would have been really cool. Maybe we don't see that, but again, it's kind of a minor thing in the grand scheme of things, because I think as a Nintendo fans, I think we're going to hear about Nintendo games probably in the same week that we would have for E3, because I would assume they're gearing up for it and getting ready, and
Right.
that just that's kind of a hype week. So I would kind of assume that that's gonna happen anyway. And here's hoping that we get an actual direct fairly soon, following up from last week. Which does make sense, because as of this upcoming Friday, all of the dated games that we know of are out.
Ooh.
Yes.
So as
Oh
of this
man.
Friday, when a certain small game releases, we don't know when anything is coming, and that's just it. We had some indications, like the Japanese direct YouTube posted a new hidden video and such, and there's some rumors that there's going to be an indies direct and then a regular one. I don't know. We'll see. I'm really hoping it happens pretty soon, just so we kind of know what's happening this year. Because right now we really don't. Not that I'm clamoring for games to play exactly, but it would be nice to know, to have some things to kind of hype for at this time. Um, One final thought. Actually, two final thoughts. One, this illness, I think is going to make some real waves in the gaming community, just in general. I think it's going to change the way things happen a little bit. We're also seeing some impact in the large-scale Smash tournaments. So, like CEO Dreamland, a lot of the pros are actually dropping out now. We'll see if the event actually happens. Maybe the last one ever in Orlando, which is a little sad, because those tournaments are super hype.
Mm.
But finally, what better time for a game like Animal Crossing to actually come out than the time that we're all supposed to stay at home, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean.
Sergio, you're going to be all set, man.
Yes. Interesting timing, but yes.
So when I say the words Animal Crossing is coming out in 1 week, what are you thinking, man? Are you ready? Are you like it?
I mean, I made plans for it, but it still doesn't sound real. I feel like until I'm actually playing it that first night, Thursday 9 p.m. Pacific time, then it's gonna finally be like, oh, it really did come out. It's true.
I mean, your Discord status says not alive until March 20th. So I mean, you're sleeping for until that game, man. I mean, no, that's great. I appreciate the just all the love you have for that game. I'm excited too. I've never played an Animal Crossing game before, so I'm pretty stoked. Yeah, I mean, it's just, man, what a time we live in. I mean, like, it's just the Animal Crossing coming out on that Friday, and I cannot wait to get it. I wanna love it and play it, and just like get more into the world, and have my own island, and I don't know, just like do stuff.
And then Kevin and I are suddenly being quarantined like a week later
No.
with One Step from Eden actually
Yes,
coming out, which is
that's right.
that's the game we both been kind of hyping for. It's kind of a roguelike throwback to Mega Man Battle Network.
Yeah, and it
Mm.
just looks so good. I mean, there's like a lot of customizations, different characters, like the the way, well, because they just released I believe a new demo gameplay vid. Like it just looks so good, and like
Looks
I'm so
fast.
it's fast. It is like it's fast, like nothing else. And I mean, there was a comment online saying like, well, when One Step from Ian comes out, what am I gonna do? Do I have to abandon my villagers? From like Animal Crossing. I'm like, uh-oh, like, I don't know, man.
We'll
I,
see. I don't. I
we'll
don't
see.
know.
I don't. You know what? I'm going to make this work yeah, on my end, and yeah, I'm gonna balance it out. And then when that Final Fantasy VII remake comes out, I'm gonna just
Oh,
spend
yeah.
50 hours a day playing 50 hours because there's only 50 hours in a day, so I'm good to
I
go.
I'll say that I am probably not playing Animal Crossing right at launch, so I'm probably not going to play it for a while. And it's not a protest or anything. It's just probably Beck, my wife, will actually be playing it,
Right,
and
that's
then
what I
I'll
thought.
Mm.
I'll be one of the people trying to keep our Discord actually playing other games. So this will be fun. Join all one of us, and no, it'll be fun. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward for everyone playing that game and just seeing some of the reactions and such. And there's a few games that are coming out fairly soon. So, the Kickstarter for Wonderful 101 just wrapped up. So those copies are supposed to ship sometime in April. And there's a few games that we know of that are coming out fairly soon that I'm pretty excited for. So, and it's not like I said, it's not really like I have a shortage of games right now to play.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, with we talk about games that we don't have a shortage of playing. We're gonna kind of transition into some games that we have been playing, and potentially want to come to Switch in you guys' cases. So I'm gonna start actually with Sergio. What have you been playing lately, man?
So, relatively lately, I would say, let's see, probably about 2 months, I started playing a game that honestly I'm surprised it didn't come out on the Switch as well, because it did come out about 2 months ago on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and PC. And
Hmm.
it's for a series that has already had a bunch of games on the Switch. And I'm talking about Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, Dragon Ball Z Fighters or Fighter Z eventually did come out on the Switch. It didn't come out uh, hand in hand with the other versions. And it kind of made sense in a way because they probably started developing the game after the Switch was the crazy success that it is. But I don't think Kakarot had the same issue. I, I I don't think the game. I don't think it's a matter of if the Switch can handle it. I think it can. It's interesting. I hope it eventually comes out. Honestly, I can see like a definitive edition coming for it later for the other systems, and then also for the Switch. But basically, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, it's the story of Dragon Ball Z, the anime, told in video game form. all of it. All
Hmm.
I guess we can say four main arcs of the anime.
Oh wow.
That's a
It's all
lot.
there. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
there. It's all canon. They even added side quests and extra missions that are considered canon in part of the Dragon Ball Z timeline and history. So that was pretty cool. And honestly, the best way I can summarize the game is that if you're a Dragon Ball fan or a Dragon Ball Z fan, and sometimes you feel the itch to watch the anime again, now you have another option. You can ask yourself, do I want to watch it or do I want to play it? Because honestly, that's what it is. When you play this game, you're playing the entire anime, you're playing the best parts of it and enjoying the best fights. It was amazing. The music is good. The I guess the core of the game, it's more like an open world game, but you can go around
Hmm.
doing side quests, and then as part of the story you do the Dragon Ball fights, which are pretty cool. It's like a nice, very addictive beat 'em up style fighting game.
So for these Dragon Ball games, like it reminds me of the Game Boy games. Remember, like with Dragon Ball. So is this pretty much like that, but just like way more involved and like the fighting and like the adventure. Do you remember the GBA games?
I remember one for the DS, which was, I believe it was a retelling of the original Dragon Ball. So
Yeah.
it's something like that. That was more of an RPG. This is more like an action RPG,
Okay.
but with the open world part of it, which is actually really, really cool.
And is this like Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Z Kai? Because Dragon Ball Z Kai is like Dragon Ball Z as what it should be. Because in the original Dragon Ball Z, it took like 15 episodes for Goku to launch the Spirit Bomb.
Yes.
It's like, it's like, whoa,
For like
Goku!
20 minutes.
Right. And then you had the announcer say, whoa, Goku finally hit his Spirit Bomb against Blizzard.
It cuts in the next episode and he's like, his hair is like 4 inches longer somehow.
Oh man, and that's like the climax. But yeah, I mean, what is your favorite part about it, Serge?
No, well, to answer your first question, it is like Dragon Ball Z Kai. It is streamlined, but it does have a few throwbacks to the original Dragon Ball Z. Like it does have
Mm.
some parts that are not in Kai. It's pretty cool. My favorite part, oh man, I am a big fan of the Frieza saga. There's a lot of drama
Yes.
going on. It always feels like everything is gonna go downhill. It's really well done. And the game is very fair, very faithful to the source material. It has the great music. I believe all of the voice actors from the anime are back. If they are not, they did a really good job. I cannot distinguish them from the originals as if they are not. They probably are. So everything is there. The sound effects that the story, the characters. It's really well done.
So, I mean, any word on this coming to Switch? Because, like you said, it actually kind of feels like it would fit really well. And we already have things like Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Fighters, so there's not really any kind of licensing issue that I'm aware of.
Yeah, exactly. I believe they did ask them. They said no comment. Uh, like I said, it's surprising. I really hope there's like a Game of the Year edition or like a complete edition because I know they are doing some DLC and there is a season pass for it. So hopefully, eventually, it does come out to the Switch. It would feel like it's at home, especially with the other Dragon Ball Z games out there. It feels like it missed the Switch and it shouldn't have.
It's interesting. Like Fighters didn't come out for quite a bit, and quite a bit later, it actually made its way to Switch after it had landed on other consoles. So maybe something similar to that. Switch is just kind of we will get a version at some point. Here's hoping.
Right. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Good
that's
stuff,
cool.
man.
A lot of people love this game.
hmm
Oh, so I have to ask, who is your favorite Dragon Ball character?
Oh no.
Ooh, you knew it was coming.
Oh, that's tough.
Mm.
You know what? Like it's a surprise to even myself, but I think I like Vegeta.
Oh,
I
that's
do.
good one. Ooh.
I mean, I can't even argue with that. Vegeta's the best. So there you go. Okay. He is definitively the best. NJP says so. There we go. We have voted and is spoken. The official Nintendo Jump podcast back to Dragon Ball character is Vegeta.
Oh, wait.
Anyways,
Hold
so
on.
Kevin, what have you been playing lately?
For the record, I'm a pickle guy and Trunks. So I've been playing which is cool too. I've been playing this one demo that came out not too long ago. It's about fantasy. It's final, the seventh time. Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. It released not too long ago, and demo was about an hour to an hour and a half, and I gotta say, pretty decent. They definitely did a decent job with streamlining how the combat is, like when you're fighting against enemies or bosses, what have you. I mean, it did took a bit of a time to get used to it, but it felt pretty familiar, with how like Final Fantasy 13 and 15 played. So in that sort of mix, and it's cool because like the difficulty of just going through. Okay, so you go through just the bombing mission. The very beginning of
Hmm.
Final Fantasy 7. So you're going through the bombing mission. That's the whole demo. In terms of the difficulty, it's definitely a bit tougher because you can't just hack away at the enemies. You have to be more strategic. It's real time, and you have you have to actually maneuver your character in order to dodge certain attacks and time your attacks right. So the battle sequence is it's nuanced in a way where you have to be aware of what's going on, and while the awesome battle theme is playing in the background, which is cool. But yeah, it's you have your spells, you have your attacks, different abilities, and then you have your way to build up your limit break, which takes a super duper long time. um, it's cool because like in Final Fantasy 13 and 15, you have a way to you build up a pressure meter uh as you keep attacking and trying to hit its weak spots. And then once you pressure the enemies, right,
Hmm.
you get to a staggered state. So it's like you fill the meter, boom, it's staggered, and that meter will just like go down really quickly, right? And in that moment, just that period of time, you can deal more damage. So this is where you unload, right? Unload your strongest attacks, magic, what have you. Um, you do that until the staggered meter runs out, and then each enemy will adhere to that staggered meter when you build up to it. So there's a bit of a strategy involved. It's a bit more streamlined than your previous Final Fantasies.
Hmm.
Um, I really do like how you're able to switch seamlessly between Cloud and Barret, pretty much the two main characters you get to use in the demo. You have shortcuts to abilities, spells, items, and like I said before, building up the limit break is pretty tough, but it's definitely rewarding once you're able to nail it. Like the animations on that are just really fluid. Even like using spells, like you'll have like Cloud, doing the hack and slash for a bit, and then you can switch over to Barret, using Thunder. Then you can switch back to Cloud, and you see Barret in the background using Thunder, and it just looks really nice. Um, I really do like the remastered music. It's definitely has that nostalgic factor, more so than something to be innovative with the times. So I think that was a very good touch. It works with the tone environment of the game. Like when you're in Midgar, you're on the mission. Like, the thing I hummed last episode, I think. So and when they incorporate the voice acting, like it wasn't terrible. Like it actually worked. For the English part, I hope they do have the Japanese sub subs, which would be great.
Hmm.
Because I'm curious about that. With that voice acting, Barrett sounds like he looks. Cloud does too. He doesn't have that much of a deep voice as Barrett, but he
Pity
has
the
the
fool.
right. He kind of has that Mr. T, that Barrett guy. And Cloud just sounds like a teenager, just like showing his young age, and but still very, kind of like, oh, I'm like, look at me, I'm a first class soldier, I'm indifferent, whatever, and blah. Um, so yeah, and when you're in the battle sequence, and you bring up the menu to use attacks and magic, what have you, the battle sequence just slows down quite a lot. But it's not time freezing, so you can't just leave the menu idle there forever. Like it just
Hmm.
pops up in the bottom left. You definitely have to be deliberate and quick about what action you're taking while you're using the menu, because when you're accessing the menu for abilities, spells, and items, you don't have the luxury of taking your time, which I think is done right. It just feels right the way they did it. Now the graphical output of 1080p, that's showing Midgar. I mean, they definitely. I mean, it just looks really really nice, and a lot of nice shades of blacks, and just the way they create the environment, and nostalgia definitely brings home quite a bit. And
Mm.
you know, it would have been nice to have 68 frames per second, but 30 FPS, yeah, I'll take it. And yeah, like just hearing the way that the social dynamic between Cloud Bear and the rest of the crew, it's on point. It's not too cheesy and not too monotonous, so I think it's a good balance. And last part I want to say is that the way they portrayed Cloud and Barrett as playable characters in battle are just they're done very well. You know, Cloud, he has this something called a punishable mode where his attack power is stronger, but isn't able to guard against physical magic attacks. So it's like going all out. While
Mm.
you have Barrett, who has his long range mode of attack, where you can overcharge to do a much stronger gun attack. So it's very deliberate the way the characters are different. I mean, they were different back in FF7, but they definitely like just the way they are built in battle. Like it just works for this real time combat strategy type of spiel. So that's my thing on Final Fantasy Remake. It's a good demo. I really liked it, and I can't wait for the first part out of 7.
So I'll say two things here. First of all, this demo is extremely divisive.
Yeah.
A lot of people are kind of underwhelmed by it, particularly with this, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. At least at this release of it is like a small part of the original game. We don't know how many parts are going to be. We don't know anything at this point. And what was in the demo was actually like kind of beat for beat what was in the original game. So they're
Yeah.
not really showing much new aside from the actual gameplay differences and obviously graphics improvements and such. The other thing, so this is a timed exclusive on PS4, which I just looked up. So the earliest we could ever see this come to another console is April of next year. So
Yeah.
for those of you listening that are Nintendo only gamers, you're going to be waiting a while. If it even comes, you're going to be waiting a
Right.
while, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, and I can understand why people were underwhelmed quite a bit and can be disappointed, but I guess for me, like, I just took it as like, okay, well, it's been a while since I played Final Fantasy VII. I'm gonna have lower expectations. I have other games I'm playing, and I'm just gonna take it like I don't know, like a side dish for Animal Crossing. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds really
I'm
bad.
just really curious how their monetization model is going to happen with all these different parts and such. This could turn really grimy in a hurry, or it could be surprisingly okay. And I don't know which side I'm more expecting at this point.
I hope it's surprisingly okay.
Part 1 is on PS4. Parts 2 through 7 are in PS5. So you got to do a console upgrade in the. Oh my god.
Oh no. I think I just want them to nail this out of the park. Like I know there's a lot of hype and disappointment at the same time, or just like people were just waiting, but I'm very high on this remake part 1, and I'm just gonna give it a chance. If it sucks, then you know what? At least I tried.
Throw it in the bin with Final Fantasy 15 and move on. Yep.
Now,
right? I mean, that's where we put the sucky Final Fantasies, right? There's a magical bin for these things, and you just throw them right in there. No big deal. The trash guy comes in the morning. It's no big deal.
yeah, the real talk though, I still have my Final Fantasy Collector's Edition, so I don't know if I can throw it away.
Oh no. Okay.
My FF15. Because I got FF15 in the Collector's Edition, and like it looks really nice, and there's like signatures from the developers, so I could throw away the disc.
People
Nah,
that
I
you can
can't.
write personal letters on why their game disappointed you. So yeah, perfect.
I'm gonna do that.
Please don't do that.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, so I'm gonna move on to mine. I think I have been playing a game, courtesy of Darkus, actually. So it's a game that came out at the end of January, and it's called 1980X. So have you guys heard of 1980X?
I've heard of
I've
it.
just
Good.
heard the title, but I don't know the genre.
Well, it's nobody knows the genre. It's kind of a different thing. So this is a very interesting game. And it's one that like if you look into it, you'll see an original video from it that instantly piqued my interest. I was in on like the first minute that I saw it, and I was like, this is a game I'm gonna eventually have. It's currently $10 on the eShop. If it goes on sale, obviously it'd be cheaper than that. But yeah, so what 1980X is basically it's kind of a visual novel type So it's very narrative driven with this kid growing up in the 80s, kind of in his teenage years, who finds an arcade. But a lot of the story is literally told through gameplay from classic arcade games. So there's 5 different games here that are all, you can't like, it's not like a mini game collection. It's not like you're going to be picking the games individually. They tie into the story. There's a specific segment where they are, and some of them have story beats in the middle of them. So it's not exactly like you're going to be playing these games as arcade games. So I'm trying to
Hmm.
set those expectations. But it starts out with kind of like a side-scrolling beat 'em up type game. Think Final Fight, almost exactly Final Fight.
Hmm.
Then it transitions into like this space shooter, very similar to like a Gradius game. Then it has a racing game, not dissimilar from like Rad Racer or I'm blanking on the Sega game. Anyways, the
Outrun. Trying to think.
yeah, that's one
Maybe.
of them. I think that actually might be the one. So it's kind of like Outrun, and then there's like an Endless Runner, and then there's like an old school RPG kind of maze uh, pace, yeah, maze tracking game with RPG elements, and these are all kind of told over the course of a narrative that the kid is talking to you at sometimes during the games, and is telling this interesting kind of angsty, kind of nostalgic story from this kid's point of view, and the whole game is over in about an hour and a half. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, so it's extremely short. It felt extremely poignant to me. I can't say I really know exactly what the story was. It's kind of a first part. I think there's multiple parts uh,
Hmm.
in this series. But it hit me on the right level. Like when I got finished playing it, I was like, man, that was a cool experience. I finished it in like an evening, right? And I played it through, and all of these arcade games that it played, all of them played really well. Like and I'll say this is not a game that, again, you're not going to go back and play the arcade games again. They're not actual full games in there. They're meant as story segments. Um, but it's just really cool, and it's really well done, and the games feel really good. This is from developer High Bit Studios, which I think is their first game. And I made the comment on Twitter and Discord. Seriously, if they released any of these games as a full game, I'd buy it.
Hmm.
They nailed the gameplay so well for all of them, and it's just kind of cool to see.
That's awesome. What was your favorite like game mode or your or I guess genre within this game? Like, what was your favorite
Yeah,
part?
the best one within the game is probably the space shooter.
Hmm.
The one I liked the most was actually the Outrun style like racing game, because it actually has a very cool story segment in the middle of it, which is really really interesting. Never really played anything like that. So yeah, probably those two were like the highlights of the game, but all of them were good. Seriously.
Awesome.
And the music is really cool too. It's kind of a mix of like 80s synth pop and like video game music. And when I say
Hmm.
a mix, I mean some tracks are like kind of chiptune and some tracks are not. It's just a cool game. It's just really cool. And for $10, I mean it's short. It's really short. And I can imagine some people might be kind of disappointed by that. But for $10, I would say it's worth it. I actually really enjoyed my time with it. But that's about all I'm going to say because it's only about an hour long. So play it and have fun.
Nice. And if they wanted to do more with that world or story, I mean, it's cool that they have two ways to go about it. Like you said, they can put out the actual games as full games, or they can continue the story, or maybe try something similar but different.
Yeah, and I would be in for either. I'm gonna definitely keep my eyes on this developer because I think that they did something kind of special. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it's a cool thing. Um, so yeah, it's kind of an art piece and kind of something that maybe you're not gonna go back to over and over and over. But if you got $10 and you want a kind of a cool story, I think it's a good one. So yeah, there you go. Sergio, it's back
Nice.
to you, man. What else have you been playing?
Back to me. Now I'm going with something that it's more recent, definitely, that I've been playing. I have been playing a little bit of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue
Hmm.
Team DX, which is the remake of the first Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, one for the Game Boy Advance, the other one for the DS. It was cool that they came out one for each system on the same day. and they actually had some cool connectivity features that, unfortunately, it's not going to be part of the single Switch game. But they get around that. Basically, you can do the same thing online with your friends on the Switch. But basically, it's tried and true mystery dungeon exploring. Basically, you go to an area. It's called a mystery dungeon, and it is randomly generated with enemies in different rooms and different challenges that you have to do. Of course, there is a main story, and it's Pokemon. Basically, it's you are a human that turned into a Pokemon. You take a personality quiz at the beginning, and it tells you which Pokemon you are. You can change it if you want, and then basically you play the story, which is not nothing too amazing. It's nice though. It goes for what it's going.
It goes for where it's going. That is like the best. Can you put on the hashtag? That's the best phrase I've heard all day. It goes- so what? You mentioned before that it's a step up from difficulty, right? Like this game is not a walk in the park. So when you say that, like, what is the hardest part about the game? Like, what makes it so difficult?
The biggest thing is that if you happen to lose your life in a dungeon, you lose all the items that you had and all the money that you had.
Wow.
So before you go into a dungeon, you have to, go to the bank or go to the storage and just take exactly what you need and only the money that you might need. For that very reason, you don't want to lose everything you had. If you do, you kind of have to put yourself on pause and try to find a friend that can go online and try to rescue you. But yeah, that's the difficult part, and you don't expect that. Honestly, coming from like a traditional Pokemon game, which we've talked about, they're not pretty difficult, not at all. So when you get into a hard Pokemon game, it's a nice change of pace. That being said, though, it's interesting on this one. I don't know if they toned down the difficulty a little bit. I feel like they might have, or I don't know if it's just me being a little more experienced with the series now, and I'm kind of planning ahead. But I do feel like you get a lot of items in the beginning of your quests, and side quests are plentiful here, so you can get a lot of items and you can pretty much like stack up for any situation that might come up. Other than that, you go into the dungeons, you fight Pokemon. Eventually, you are able to recruit them into your team, so you can build a pretty large team. I believe it's mostly, or maybe it's just all the 150 original Pokemon that are here. So you can
Oh,
eventually get all of those. And once you beat the game, there's a lot of post-game content because the Pokemon can actually evolve.
nice. That's a nice touch. And you know what? How long is typically the game length for this sort of thing? Like, is it like a regular Pokemon game, or is it a short experience? Like, what's the length?
I would say it's on par with the typical Pokemon experience. I would say about 15 to 20 hours. Um,
Hmm.
there's a later part in the game where the story really, really picks up, and you don't do a lot of side quests. It's like a lot of progressive story chapters, and oh man, I cannot wait to get to that part. That was really cool. But yeah, it's a nice chunk of game.
Would you say you can wait after Animal Crossing comes out?
Oh no, I'm
Oh.
not going back to this game.
Yeah, I was gonna
So,
say.
ringing endorsement from Sergio for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX and Knuckles Definitive Edition Legendary Edition. Yep,
There we
perfect.
go.
Don't
Oh
ask me to
boy.
repeat that one.
Oh.
All right, Kevin, what else, man?
Oh man, you know what? I'm a big fan of the strategy simulation puzzle type of game. Dinosaur Polo Club came out with Mini Metro, but they also came out with Mini Motorways. Yeah, and it, it's not on Steam yet. It's not on the Switch yet. Although I did get a confirmation that it will be on Switch in the future. I did get a DM, or
Oh.
not a DM, but a tweet, a retweet, yeah, what have you. Now, uh, it's on Apple Arcade. Yes, I did sign up for one free month. I'm and you know what? I have it right here, like on my lap, and it is a great experience. It's a really fun game where you are designing pretty much a roadmap for a growing city, right? It's
Mhm.
like so mini metro. You think of it as like you're building like a metro station. You're going subway to subway, and you're building that interconnection between parts of the city to just to create your subway lines and trains and what have you to have people go from what point A to point B within a certain amount of time. For many motorways, it's the same thing, but just more focused in the city. You're building roads. You have people coming from their houses to go to like the shopping market or supermarket, and then sometimes in that round, like while you're playing, it can grow into a bigger super center, and then then pretty soon there's gonna be some traffic, right? Like on the roads, and you have to find a way to regulate the way that people go to certain places. So, uh, and it's color coded too. So red can only
Right.
go to red, yellow can only go to yellow, green can go to green. You know the spiel. Uh, so it's a little challenging because these houses they pop up randomly, as well as the destinations that they have to go to, like these shopping centers that I think they are, and
Mm.
they sometimes grow into bigger venues where they have to. I mean, gotta get there, and sometimes you gotta. At some point, you have the options. So it goes like by a week system, right? So each day. I mean, it's not like it doesn't go like a regular full day. Like it's a sped up time. So after week after week, which is probably like a span of like I think 2 minutes, so 2 or 3 minutes. I
Mm.
could be wrong about that, but so week after week, you get like more roads you can build, more traffic lights where you can regulate like the intersections, and then at some point you can get these motorways or the freeways, these highways that you can connect from one end of the city to another. So if you have like those purple houses that need to go to a purple shopping center on the other side of the city, you might want to use a motorway to make sure that they get there, on time and
Mm.
just with one way. Otherwise, they have to go through different roads and yada yada yada. Because then, like, at a certain point where you'll have like a bunch of houses connected to different, uh, shopping centers. I call these shopping centers. I don't know what they're called, but they look at shopping centers. Uh, it gets very complicated, and you have to figure out how to, meet the demands of people, trying to either get out of the shopping center or come in. So, when it does get very cramped, like when the shopping center, you'll see like a icon saying like, hey, like, you know, it, there's gonna be time running out, and then like if it fills from black to red, you're done. It's over. So you have
Mm.
to keep going. You have to keep the traffic going, and manage the upgrades to meet the changing demands within the city, and with just you want to make sure that you create the most efficient city you can, and and then like as the days goes by, you get points. You'll see on your upper right corner, pretty much that indicates how many people have gone to their destination, uh, you know, properly. So it can get pretty challenging, and then like there's times where you have to create bridges, but you won't have all the resources at your disposal at times because then you have to make sure that you plan your roads the right way. So that's
Mm.
many more ways in general, and there's like different places you can start, like or you can play in, like Los Angeles, Beijing, Tokyo, Moscow, Munich, Zurich, and there's one called I think I'm gonna butcher this, Dar es Salaam. I think it's in South Africa. I've never heard that city before, but with this game, now I have. So, uh, yeah, that's many motorways.
Man, it looks complicated, but it looks like those games that you start out pretty rough and you probably mess things up big time, but then you keep playing, you play more sessions and you kind of get into it. It looks like that.
Yeah, it's the more you play, the more addicted you get, and it's just really simple, like just to plan out all the roads and stuff. But it just gets, but you have the opportunity to redo the roads if it doesn't make sense, like with the growing houses and shopping centers that come up. And I want to make a quick correction. It's Dar es Salaam is not in South Africa. It's in Tanzania. So you can put your pitchforks
Oh.
down. Really sorry about that. Um, shows my knowledge for the African continent, I should be more aware of the geography. Um,
Sorry to all Tanzanians listening to us.
oh no, I know. I'm
It's
please.
unfortunate, and he will be dealt with accordingly. I assure you.
Yes.
No, that's fun, and I mean, it's developed to be a phone game, so it's developed to be, complicated but not complicated, right? So
Yeah, that's the best way to describe that.
yeah, and Mini Metro is fun, so that's great.
It gets you to where you're going. It just you get that sort of craving for puzzle strategy games.
Oh,
This
that's
is
not
it.
going to become a thing now, is it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it sounds pretty good. Well, at least
No,
what?
no. I'm going to nip that one in the bud,
No,
man.
don't. There's no buds are gonna be nipped. Okay.
Uh-huh. It's already
Look,
done, man.
oh. But yeah, it's free on Apple Arcade. With a
Which is definitively not free.
well, it's free. So it's free if you get the free trial for a month, and then after that, it's not free, right?
It's free if you pay for the paid subscription to Apple Arcade, which makes it specifically not free.
Okay, so it's not free, but it is for the first month, and it's for anyone who wants a puzzle strategy game, I encourage you to play it. You will lose hours like me. Hopefully not too many. It's like one of those games you just it's a pretty fun game, and
It's a boredom fighter for sure.
It's a
Like
boredom
it's
fighter.
it's one you just kind of sit down and you're like, "Hey, I just want to tinker with something for a little bit." And it's perfect for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and make sure you have a stylus because I use a stylus.
Sweet.
For my iPad. So it's preferred. If you use your fingers, that's cool too. But it just feels nice with the stylus, man. You're just pointing at things. It just gets you where you're going. So I mean, I think you're good to go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep on trucking to my second game that I've been playing lately, other than Mario Maker. So Super Mario Maker is our game of the month. Super Mario Maker 2, technically. So no, don't go out and get your Wii U's out. It's okay. We've had a lot of fun so far. So a bunch of people making courses and speedrunning courses and all sorts of stuff. So really, yeah, please join our Discord. It's a lot of fun. That's all I'll say on that. But in the other times, I've been playing a lot of Mega Man Zero ZX Legacy Collection, which is the collection of games from the Game Boy Advance and DS era of Mega Man Zero games, developed by Inti Creates and released by Capcom, obviously. These games were never my favorite, and I played at least a few of them early on. I never played the ZX games, so I'm actually interested to get into those. But I did play a few of the Zero games. I don't even remember at this point which ones, but they were always just kind of like, oh, okay, that was fun. And I'm playing this collection now. I made it all the way through 01, which I actually 01, Mega Man Zero, the first game, which I actually like legitimately enjoyed my time with, and I was like, man, this is a pretty sweet deal. I like this collection, and then I started playing Mega Man Zero 2. And I have encountered so much bullcrap in the levels thus far that I'm getting a little frustrated with it. So I decided to kind of step away for a little bit, but I'm going to keep going because I think Mega Man Zero 4 is generally considered the best of them and one of the best Mega Man games. So, and I'm not sure I actually originally played that. So I'm going to keep going, but I just needed a break from Zero 2 because it was frustrating the heck out of me with ice and spikes and just some really nonsense level design that not the best. Hopefully I'm just being salty here and it gets better. But I'll come back to it eventually. But yeah, I am currently playing that, and that's all I'll need to say on that, unless you guys have questions, I guess.
Well, just to clarify my knowledge or lack thereof, more likely, the Mega Man Zero games, those are the ones that kind of have different win conditions, correct? It's not your typical go from the start of the level to the end of it.
It's still kind of that.
Oh,
Like the setup is a little bit different. Like you're in this actual world and you do missions and you can feel how the level is actually connected to the other things, and there's like some branching paths and such, but you're still just kind of going through Mega Man levels thus far. Mega Man ZX, I think, is actually switching that up. And again, I never played those. I'm actually really eager to. But I'm playing these in order just because I want to.
oh, nice.
In terms of difficulty, like, is there a bigger step in difficulty from Mega Man Zero compared to the original Mega Man games? Like, is it very noticeable? Like, or did they just it's just pretty much what you expect.
They're similar to the Mega Man X games.
Okay.
In overall difficulty. They thus far Mega Man 0 and 02, and again I said the developer reportedly got better as they went on, right? So 3 and 4 are considered better than 1 and 2. So they take this with a grain of salt. Right now it doesn't feel as well designed as the Mega Man X games in terms of like, some of the levels just kind of don't make sense. Some of the concepts just don't kind of make sense. Like there's grinding in this game randomly.
Oh.
Huh.
Like you level up your weapons the more you use them, which takes a lot. You also like can grind for energy crystals to like grow these things called elves, which are basically how you get more health and sub tanks and such. It's the design of the game is kind of at odds with what it's asking you to do, because also at the end of each level you're graded. So you get graded on like how long it took you to get through the level and how much damage you took and how many enemies you killed and stuff. Which is teaching me that this, along with the Platinum games lately, are teaching me that I really don't like grading systems in games. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
feel like I did okay and then get a C grade. It just kind of sucks. I also don't want to feel like I did all that poorly and then get like an A. That kind of
Right.
sucks too. And I get into that kind of like, it kind of grates on me with Platinum games a lot. And here it's kind of doing the same thing. I'm like, stop it. Like
Yeah,
it
because this
doesn't
reminds you of
matter.
school. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
it
want to
doesn't
think about
matter.
school. Yeah,
Just let me
man,
play my
like,
Mega Mans, man. That
yeah,
I don't know.
Mega Man's man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And grades are subjective, right? I mean, like, there's like different like linear.
Well, not in
curve,
this
like,
case. In this
right,
case, there's
okay.
actually specific criteria for each, but
Oh, okay. Well,
it basically requires that you know the levels and you can go through them pretty quick, and you don't get a chance to replay them. So it's basically just like how you did on your first playthrough of it. And it's just kind of weird. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. I don't know. Despite all this, I do like the games, and I'm eager to play some more of it. It's just not exactly my favorites thus far, but I'll keep playing and see how they go.
sweet,
Nice.
cool.
All right, and I do have one more, but Sergio, one more round, man.
One more round, save the list, the best for last, for sure. So, finally, the sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, and mostly recent game, Ori in the Blind Forest, which is out on Switch. Finally, the sequel is out, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I guess the only downside is that it is not out on the Switch, and they're not talking about that just yet, but spoiler alert, this developer, Moon Studios, they like to do a lot of things in the first anniversary of a game release. So I can sign it for you. Will of the Wisps is coming to Switch next March for sure.
Confirmed. There
Guaranteed.
you go. Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. And oh man, this game, it. I guess the only downside that I can think of is that it took a little bit longer to click with me this time. But once it did, it clicked big. It clicked hard. It's Ori, but better, way better. If anything, I would say the first game, the best part of the first game was the way it controlled. It was really flowy, very nice controls, very nice environment and platforming. This game still has all of that, but now even the combat, I would describe it in such a way. It is a delight to fight. That's a nice rhyme.
Whoa. That's man. You've been trying out some good hashtag material today, man.
I like that one. That
Yeah.
one's pretty good.
But yeah, basically what they did is honestly they kind of turned it into Zelda, but fun and good. No, I'm kidding.
Oh
I'm
wait.
kidding.
Oh,
Hey.
that.
Now, I mean, I've joked about banning people before. That actually is a bannable offense.
No. I mean, they took good parts from a really good series, Zelda. Yeah, the combat is really good because now Ori has like a spirit sword type of main attack, and it works really well. It's very delicious to use it, and you also have
Wait, what? Delicious.
you have like a
That's
bow and
cool.
arrow and a boomerang. So yeah, it's very Zelda inspired. The combat is really good. It flows really well with the platforming. You can kind of do both at the same time. It's so good. The story is really good. The music, the graphics, it's all here. If you like the first Ori, this is just more of the same, and it's really, really polished and well refined.
Man, I want a weapon that's delicious. Oh, I mean, sign me up. I mean, what is going?
Just
This
leave
is
it, man.
No, I'm not leaving it. I like the description. Okay, fine. I'm done with that. But
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you actually like it. It certainly had a lot of hype coming out, so I'm glad it's out.
Yeah,
nice.
and like I said, just a matter of waiting unofficially but officially. Let's just wait for the release on the Switch. It's gotta happen.
Or my name isn't Sergio. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I hope it does come to Switch because I'm not gonna buy an Xbox for it. But yeah, I do hope it comes. I do hope it comes to Switch. That'd be a lot of fun.
Me too.
All right, last one, Kevin.
Man, I've been playing this one action RPG, by the same publishers slash developers who made The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. I'm
Oh,
talking about
here we
Yeast
go.
8. Yeah, we are going. I'm gonna guess where we're going. Yeast 8, Lacrimosa of Dana. It is an action RPG. It's part of the Yeast series. Yeast as in YS. I don't know why they say it that way, but I was gonna say Wise. Nah, it doesn't work. Okay, so so this game revolves around this one dude. His name is Adol Kristen. He is this guy on the ship with his companion named Doji. I'm
Hmm.
butchering it. They're aboard a ship called the Lombardia, and they're heading over to this continent called Eurasia because they want to do more adventuring. And then all of a sudden, boom! This massive like tentacle creature, sea creature, just like says, "Nope, you're not gonna do that." Well, it didn't say that, but that's what the actions dictated that situation. And then they got stranded on this island called it's called Siren Island. It's this island where legend has it that no one has ever returned, and it's just this cursed place. You don't want to be there. You know, they just they end up there, and then they're just trying to survive. And it's kind of like this Robinson Crusoe type of adventure. And then you get to find different characters that either join you in the party or they help you when you're a campsite. Where you have to uh, just try to survive and day by day try to build different things to you know uh, like for items or for medicine and all that. And they
So
call
it's
it
pretty much Animal Crossing.
it's like Animal Crossing, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's it has New Horizons embedded in the formula. It's or they call it Castaway Village. Same thing, same thing. It's a base of operations for Adol and his teammates as he goes explore the island for more survivors from that ship that he was on, in previously. So it's pretty cool. Like you get to fight enemies in this sort of real time combat, and you have different attacks, and you can also dodge attacks too. And there's something called Flash Guard where you're able to counter by pressing one of the buttons. And once you get into Flash Guard mode, you're able to deal even more damage. And it's it can get pretty tough. Well, I have it on hard difficulty, and
Oh,
it's cool because yeah, you get to learn more about the characters and just uh get to learn more about each character's history from bit by bit. And then there's times where, well, I don't want to spoil too much, but then you'll have like when you're sleeping you'll have dreams about this other character that shows up on the box art of the game, Dana. So that'll be for another day. The music, I have to say, it's good for like an hour, and then like after you hear the same thing over and over, I don't know. For me, it just gets overplayed. I wish they could have had
mm.
some variety. Like it's pretty decent music, man. But for me, it's just like, oh, I want something different than like rock, and I mean, put a little jazz into it, man. I mean, uh, but there are certain cutscenes where the music does play a good job. And there's like this fishing game you can do to get fish, and a lot of it is like so. So it's item based. There's no like gold. It's a lot of it is just like you get items or coconuts or different things. Thank goodness no durians yet. And you get to either craft weapons or armor or magic, not magic, potions for healing your health and your magic points and all that. So overall, it's a good experience so far. I'm 7 hours in, so it definitely plays. It's very fluid. I do wish it were 60 frames per second, but I think that is the case on the other systems. But for Switch, 30 FPS, it works. And yeah. Oh, and also, each character has their own sort of like the way to do damage, right? So, like for Adol, like he does like a slash. It's like a slashing weapon. There is Laxia, who is the second character you'll meet. She does like a piercing style. And then for the next character that I won't reveal, he does the strike. So slash, strike, or pierce. And the way you deal damage, you basically have to see like the enemy that's coming towards you, like what they're like. You'll see a label, whether it's a slash label, a strike label, or pierce. And if you're able to identify, say, the strike label, you want to use that character associated with that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, just like it feels really good to battle different characters. It can get quite a bit clunky when there's like a lot of enemies on the screen, but overall I think it works well. So yeah,
Nice.
Cool.
And how's the story so far?
it's okay. It's just like
it exists.
it exists. Yeah, I mean, it's like you're stranded on an island, you want to get out, and you're finding people. It's like a Robinson Crusoe sort of
Yeah,
thing.
what you don't know is he actually did already describe the story. that actually is it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think. I don't.
It gets better as you go on, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty much it for now.
That was my impression so far with 7 hours. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just finding more people to get off the island, and I'm like, all right, well, and then there's this person that.
It's more for
much.
the gameplay. It's a cool game.
Yeah. How do you like it, Daryl? I know you played it.
I do like it. I need to get back into it though. I don't want to talk too much about it because I want to get back into it and see how much I like it. I'll say.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Overall, like, I think there was a sale on it a while back. I mean, I think it's worth playing.
Yeah, it was 30 for a while. It keeps
Yeah.
it keeps its value somehow. And it's hard to find, but it's on the eShop every once in a while. They put it down to like $30, which is not bad. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a decent price. So, for those who want an action RPG, from a publisher / developer who isn't that well known, who deserves more credit, honestly. Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana is your pick. And yeah, I would it has a NJP recommendation approval. No? No? All right, fine. One third
Okay.
of us. One third of us.
1/5 of us.
What? Wait. Oh yeah. Sorry. 1/5. Excuse me. My bad. I was thinking 1/3 because we have us three right now, but 1/5 recommended. Hopefully 5 out of 5. Okay. I mean, let's get this going. And, I mean, look, it just fills the need for an action RPG. So.
All right, I'm gonna wrap us with this one. So I've got one more game to talk about, and I've been saving the best for last. I have been playing Civilization 6. So now's the time when I ask if you guys played a Civilization game before.
I have not.
I have not.
But I've heard about it.
Okay, so you should definitely play a Civilization game. I had never played one before either, but I'd heard a lot about the series, and I'd always kind of been skeptical about it. It's like this, this big, really deep, really mechanically inclined strategy game that people get into. It's published by 2K, which I typically don't really like 2K games, so honestly, that almost kept me from getting it anyway. But GameStop ran a sale on it. It was like $15. It's currently on sale on Best Buy for $20. This game is killer. I love this game so much. This is probably my favorite game of the year thus far.
Wow.
And it didn't even come out this year, but I played it this year. So so let me talk about a little bit about Civilization 6. It is presented kind of in a board game style. It is a game in which you develop your civilization. You pick the country and leader that you're going to represent, whether that's it's actually Teddy Roosevelt for the U.S. or Victoria to England and so on. I don't want to get things wrong, but there's a bunch of different leaders and countries that you can kind of represent. So I went with the USA, Teddy Roosevelt, and you start out and you start your civilization. You make a little city. You have a warrior. There's barbarians that you need to defend your city from. You start trying to like make more cities. Everything you do plays out in turns, and there's a ton of turns. Like the entire game lasts 500 turns. But the turns don't really take that long. So we're not talking like Mario Party here.
Oh, thank goodness.
So like
I was gonna
sometimes
say.
if you want to build something in your city, it'll take like 6 turns to do so. And at times, you've got one person exploring the map and your city's building something. You're just like, okay, next turn. Okay, next turn. Okay, next turn. That's kind of what it feels like. But anyways, eventually you keep building settlers and you keep making new cities and you expand out and you start finding other civilizations on the map. So depending on how you set it up, I did the standard size map, which is 8 civilizations on one map. And the map is kind of randomly generated. Where you are is randomly generated relative to other people. So you branch out and you start meeting other civilizations. And eventually it turns into basically a strategy game to win in one of 4 ways. You can win by capturing the capital of every other civilization, which sounds really hard to me, actually, having played the game now. But that's a domination victory. Then you can win by religious victory, so you can form a religion that then becomes the dominant religion in the world. That's how you win with a religious victory. Then you can win with a culture victory, where you generate tourism, where you're prominent tourist capital of the world. You do this by like creating wonders and things. All this sounds really deep because it is. Or you can win with a science victory, which entails you've got to build a spaceport and launch a satellite, go to the moon, and launch a Mars colony. I'm not kidding. Okay.
What?
Wow.
You guys still with me?
Partly. I just
Kind
lost
of.
me at Mars.
Yeah. So over the course of the game, you go from like one city, one warrior who's like literally carrying a spear, to like this gigantic empire, and you can have tanks and airplanes and bombers and nukes and all sorts of stuff. And it goes over this very long game. So I played one round of this game that took me like 4 days to finish, of like actually actively playing it. And I ended up winning with a science victory. And honestly, that felt like a full video game to me. Like when I was done, I was like, this is awesome. I'm done for now. This is great. I'm going to put it down. But let me tell you some stories about my run that'll probably explain a little bit better what this game actually is. First of all, the entire game is narrated by Sean Bean.
Whoa.
Famous from like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and such, right? So yeah, that's Sean Bean, so it's awesome. So you start out the game and you start hearing song, like a folk song from the area that you picked. So I picked the USA. Turns out the folk song was "Hard Times Come Again No More," which is actually a song that I actually kind of love. I've played it and sung it in the past. And so you progress through the game and you go through these different ages. You start in the ancient age and go to like I forget the exact progression, but eventually you ended up in the industrial age and then the atomic age and so on. As you progress in those, everything gets grander. So the song changes. It actually goes to a full orchestral song. It changes like 3 times. It's just so cool. Everything about this game is so cool. So America settled, and we were bordered by France on one side and Japan on the other. We grew our little city, and eventually Norway settled too close to us, so we went to war with Norway and took over a city. And France kind of made us angry too, so we went to war with France and took over one of their cities. So with my cities and those 2 cities, we eventually started the science empire of the world and just really started funding universities and all that. In over the course of the game, obviously, as you know from your history books, America built the Colosseum and Great Zimbabwe. We were at one point, we got a little mad at France, so we were at one point building the Eiffel Tower, but unfortunately, England built it first, so we had to scrap plans for that. But eventually, we entered into an alliance with Australia and ancient Rome, to establish trading partners and such. We eventually found the other continent where Australia actually was, and that was a cool place. But eventually, yeah, we did launch our Mars colony and won the game on a science victory, and it was one of the most rewarding video game experiences I've had in a very long time. I love this game. You should play Civilization 6. It's cheap right now. Other consoles have online multiplayer and such. Switch does not, but honestly, as long as these games are, that would honestly sound kind of terrible to me, because you would have to coordinate with people for like over the course of like a 10-hour game, and
Right.
that takes some pretty good friends. So, yeah, I'm happy with what I got. So,
for me, looking from the outside looking in, it seems very involved. But what's the learning curve for this game? Does it like put you in right away? Like, how do you like? Do you feel like you know the game pretty well now? Like, how do you like you just described your victory, like, which is great. I mean, like, how long did it take for you to get to that point where you like, okay, you feel comfortable and you know like what to do? Because to me, like, I'm like, I want to play, but it's like, man, this is
over the course of the game. So there is a series of YouTube videos that I linked in our Discord, that it's a 6-video series that shows you kind of how to start out the game. I watched that and then kind of used a wiki guide for a few questions I had going forward, and just Googled some stuff, right? For a few questions I had going forward, and then had no problems the rest of the game. So it is extremely deep, extremely confusing. Starting out on your own is probably the wrong idea. You should probably watch a video or so. But
Right.
then once you get it, now I could go play another round and better optimize what I just did again. So it's not like I learned as I was doing it.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad that there's like resources online, just able to help you out as you go. I mean, that's
Yeah,
great.
this is a game of like mechanics on mechanics on mechanics. Like I talked about forming a religion, even figuring out how to do that takes a while.
Oh my
Like
God.
seriously, it's not easy. So yeah, I when it came time for me to form a religion, I was a little bit late on it, and somebody else had already chosen Protestantism, and I was the U.S. and I
Oh,
didn't really want to be like Shinto or something. I'm USA, right? So
yeah.
I developed my own religion called Ninja Turtles, and I spread the the good news about Ninja Turtles around the world. So there you go. This game is weird and it's awesome and I just love it. I don't know.
Now, are there subsections of that religion, like, because I would love to be part of Donatello.
You want to be the Donatello faction of the Ninja Turtles religion? Yeah,
Oh,
we'll talk
hell
after
yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Put me in. I'm ready.
Oh man. Anyways, I think that's all I'm gonna say. If that sounds interesting to you, it's one of the most interesting, rewarding games I've played in a very long time. So yeah, I recommend it to everyone.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
But I think that's going to do it for the games we've been playing. We put out the question on Discord for some games that people want to come to Switch, because that's kind of at least part of the conversations that we've had here. I'm going to read through a couple of the responses. So Froteat said he'd kill for a Banjo Redewey, if you will. Absolutely. Big Shot says Mass Effect Collection. Absolutely. I'd love to see EA actually work with Nintendo. That'd be interesting. Cube said, especially The Witness. Also love to see Pyre, considering that's Supergiant's best game. He said both the Stanley Parable and Indivisible were already announced to come in due time. I actually have Indivisible pre-ordered, so that's cool.
And then Nat Red said a bunch of Nintendo games.
Napper said he expects all of these. I'm like, this list
Oh.
is amazing.
I mean, yeah, that would be wow. I mean, 3D World, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Paper Mario something, 2D Metroid, a Splat spin-off, Halo port of some sort, more N64, GameCube ports, remasters, Resident Evil 2 remake version tailored for Switch,
Ooh.
GTA 5 port, Mass Effect ports, nice, Ocarina of Time HD, and he's hoping for Sunshine HD, Galaxy HD, Wii Sports Resort, Nintendo Land, SSBM ports, or Super Smash Brothers Melee. But that's unrealistic. And Breath of the Wild sequel in 2021.
That list is incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, that's a big list, Napret. I
Willie
mean,
wants
yeah.
Age of Empires, which actually kind of goes with Civilization. While Luigi wants Splatoon 2 DLC. Egg Shin is my new favorite person by wanting Wind Waker. So there you go.
Wait,
And
I got something to say. There's a somewhat of a Splatoon 2 DLC. Sergio, you know about this game, right?
God no, don't do it.
What is it, Sergio?
No,
Isn't there?
let's talk about Pooplers next month.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about it next
You know,
one.
Pooplers is going to be our April game of the month. So let's hold on to that.
Okay.
If you haven't looked into Pooplers, don't. Anyways, and then finally, Dragon said really wants a Mario port of some kind. Me too. We use Zelda ports, Paper Mario, Pikmin, the return of Pilot Wings, and maybe a new Mario Kart. So good list. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, Pilot Wings would be great, man.
But Sergio, we have a question that we need to finally answer.
Yes.
Ooh.
So last week we asked, out of the first Super Mario Brothers games for the NES, which is your favorite? And we have a few answers from our Discord members. Dragon always goes for the loophole or something. He said his favorite is
Yeah.
the Lost Levels.
Come on. And no, it's
Oh.
not. You're lying. Nobody's favorite is the Lost Level. If it
Oh,
is,
I
I'm
mean-
sorry.
Well, I think Dragon's the type of guy, he loves the brutal challenge of Mario. So, I mean, it makes sense, It's, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And he did say the first one would be his favorite if he has to give a serious answer. So Mario
Yeah.
Brothers 1. Nice. Feror's Dragon said the original has always been his favorite also. Nice.
Mm.
Action said, I'm a rebel at heart, so I'm going to say 2 is my favorite. Nice. Big Shot is going with Mario Brothers 3, as well as Napping Rat. He said it's magical to him as a child. So what about you guys?
I mean, I've already mentioned this, man. Like, we're talking about the Hills Have Eyes. We're talking about, the letter P, like, I'm talking about Super Mario Brothers 3. Come on now. I mean, there was a movie about it too, which I haven't watched yet, but I mean, like it's the game. I mean,
It's the very first Nintendo Direct,
is it?
also known as The Wizard. Yeah, no.
That's
I mean,
right.
it was just an advertisement, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. Like, I just remember just days of playing World 2, like trying to get through the desert, and then finally being it not in NES form, but in the Super Mario All Stars on the SNES. Like, because at the time when I was really young playing on NES, I did not beat it at the time, but I do remember getting a little frustrated when I was really young playing it, but I still loved it. Although the Hills Have Eyes, I don't know, man. That scarred me. Man, I don't know. It definitely was interesting to see because I'm like, dude, hills really have eyes? And granted, I was like 5 years old. Okay, so I don't know. Those hills, man.
Oh man,
Scary.
So 3 is probably the best of them. 2 is probably the one I'm most nostalgic for, but honestly, 1 is my favorite to play now. So the original Super Mario Brothers, I don't know what it is, just now I really like playing that game. So yeah, that's mine.
Nice.
Good choice.
Yeah, we're going all different here because I'm going with Mario Brothers 2.
I figured that's why you asked the
Oh.
question.
Wait, like Doki Doki Panic original? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why I like it. It's my favorite because it's so different. Like, not even from the other two, but for platformers in general. Like, it kind of feels like a Mario game, but it doesn't at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good choice. I definitely have days remember playing that game, and I really like Luigi. That was my favorite. The way he's able to, get that airtime. I mean, like I thought he moved. For me, he was my favorite in terms of movement. Oh boy, and the boss was different too. It wasn't Bowser.
No, it was Wart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, for like over.
Nice.
Yeah, played for. Yeah.
Nice. So now we have a new question for this week, and it is: other than Mario, what Nintendo franchise deserves a Maker game, and why?
Oh, I'm gonna wait till next week.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
I like that question though. I like that a lot. So I got to think about that one. Well,
Yeah.
so for all of you, by the time you next hear us, Animal Crossing will be out. So the whole world's gonna change as we know it. Oh, buckle in. Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Nice.
We're ready. You're ready.
But for now, Sergio.
Here we go. Well, yeah. Thank you for listening, everyone. We're going to jump out of here. But you can keep the discussion going by chatting with us on our Discord group. The description for this episode has a link to our Discord if you would like to join. We are also on Twitter and on Instagram as Nintendo Jump, and we also have a Facebook group. Please send us any feedback you have at nintendojumppodcast@gmail.com. The best way to support the show is through our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/nintendojump, or by leaving a review for the show in your favorite podcast application. We would really appreciate it. This is Sergio, and on behalf of Daryl and Kevin, thanks for listening. We hope you have a great week. Bye-bye.
Oh, be safe out there. Bye.
And with that being said,
Back into Trogdor here.
Dragon Ball Z. Oh man, I just, I can't help it, man. I mean, I
You
do
could
miss
help
those-
it.
No, well, 64 split. There.
No. No.
What? No.
No, that's not.
This is
That doesn't
how-
apply.
This is gonna get me where I'm going. Okay,
Oh
I-
my
I
God.
know.
You know
Bye.
what?
Multiplicative of memes right there.
Bye, everybody,
Bye.
and stay safe. Yes.
So sorry.
I'm not sorry. Okay, we're done.